Talking about difficult conversations, I believe a lot of people want to hear me discuss this topic. Many people are really afraid of having tough conversations. They think these conversations are scary. What should I do? What if my husband is upset? What if things go wrong? What if I mess up? I won't be able to make any money. This includes even ourselves when we're helping clients choose things for their children when they're born. People are often very afraid to say, "Teacher, what should I do if my chart has Hua Ji? What if things go wrong in my life? What if I fail?" We usually tell you that Hua Ji, if you break down the character, it means several stars in your own heart. So Hua Ji is actually a kind of self-exploration of one's own inner world. Generally, we explain it as a sign that there is some emptiness inside you. Emptiness means that I feel unsatisfied, so I will seek answers or explore. It's like if I'm not satisfied with my weight, I keep looking into ways to lose weight. If I already feel that my figure is great today, I wouldn't bother to find out how to lose weight, right? So you must feel that you have a need. It's only when you have this kind of need or sense of lack that you feel compelled to put in the effort to do some research. This is the basic concept of a catalyst, which is why it's called several stars. The inner dialogue you have with yourself, do you have that dialogue? It's because you feel something is missing, so you need that dialogue, and that's why you explore. When you can't find the answer, you naturally feel a lot of pain. But often, that pain also becomes a source of motivation. So many teachers explain it by describing the lack of skill as all sorts of problems and shortcomings, but in reality, that's not the case. As for the transforming agent, its original meaning is simply a kind of vacancy. The 4 transformations are derived based on new prescriptions, but many people get this reversed. Many teachers explain that if you remove the transforming agent, it easily leads to gossip because they first assume there's a problem with the transforming agent. Is the script about speaking? If your speech has issues, does that mean you seek out trouble? But in reality, that's not the case. When explaining, for every new prescription you need to discuss its basic principles, why does it do what it does? Essentially, it's about the breadth of knowledge in new prescriptions. Why is that? Its most important characteristic is that it fears being misunderstood. It worries that others won't understand it. I'm afraid you won't understand me, so I want to explain it to you. But my desire to explain it to you creates a sense of emptiness in me. And that's the real reason behind the Jumeng transformation technique. However, the usual explanation seems to turn this idea upside down. For example, with the Wukou transformation technique, Wukou itself is a star of talent and uprightness. If Wukou is placed in the wealth palace, it means that this person is very pragmatic and down to earth when it comes to making money. This down-to-earth and pragmatic attitude makes him feel that there is a sense of lack in his finances. Oh, it's not that Wukou transformation technique means he doesn't know how to use money, or that he doesn't know how to spend money, or that he can't make money. That's not what it means. This is a reversed interpretation, as if the sense of lack is affecting Wuk. That's not the case. In fact, it's the transformation agent produced by Xin Yao. This Xin Yao trait makes me feel a sense of lack, makes me feel that this position is affected, and I feel something is missing. My very serious attitude toward making money makes me feel like there's a bit of a gap in my finances at the front desk. Does that mean I can't make money? Of course, that's not the case. That just means I'll work very hard, but I also hope I can get more, right? This doesn't mean I can't make money. Why? We always suggest that when discussing your chart, you must include Xin Yao. Never just talk about, oh, what are my spouse and transformation agents? Or as many people online ask me, "Teacher, my front desk and transformation agent are what I use, so I can't save money." You can't discuss it like that. Every new transformation agent is a different script altogether. Does it mean that someone with this always offends people when they speak? Why don't you think about it as them working hard and wanting to communicate with others? Out of 100 people, maybe they offend 30, but they successfully communicate with the other 70. If you only see the 30 people they offended and say they offend people, you forget that there are 70 with whom they communicated successfully. This is a common misunderstanding we have about transformation agents, thinking that a single transformation agent can only mean one thing. It just means there are some gaps. For example, when the sun transforms energy, you might wonder what the sun represents. It means you need to take the lead. And this trait of wanting to be in control of everything can make you feel like you can't get things done properly, or that things just don't work out. Getting things to your satisfaction, or having this kind of trait, might make it hard for you to handle interpersonal relationships perfectly. For example, when the sun transforms in the servant palace, you always hope to be the one in control among your friends. But this attitude creates a gap in your servant palace, which means there will be a flaw in your relationships with friends. Of course, this flaw indicates that there will be some issues and problems in your social interactions, all stemming from your desire to take charge of everything. As for the hardening agent, the hardening quality refers to being meticulous and considerate. But both the sun and the moon want to be able to take charge of everything. It's like the dynamic between father and mother. The sun is a bit more forceful, while the moon is more gentle and compliant. And this gentle attitude, if placed in the spouse palace, would also manifest as wanting everything to go your way. Even if you communicate nicely, if you overdo it, it can still affect your relationship. So, when everyone discusses chart techniques, you really need to look at what kind of heart or mindset you have. The qualities of this mindset will influence what kind of gap or deficiency appears in your chart. But is this gap necessarily a bad thing? Not necessarily, it's just that It just means we will have more pursuits, that's all. And with more pursuits, as long as I have sufficient resources and the right environment, I might actually do even better, because I'll be more willing to communicate, more willing to take care of others, and more willing to be kind to people. For example, take Lian Zhen's transformation. What does Lian Zhen's transformation mean? Its transformative energy is about self-discipline and self-restraint. But if self-discipline and self-restraint go too far, won't that make people feel uncomfortable? Or if it's excessive, you might feel that those demands are a bit strange and not necessarily in line with social values. So generally, when we talk about people with Lian Zhen's transformative energy, we wonder if they might do something illegal or improper. Actually, that's not the case. It's just that they act according to their own standards, which may not necessarily meet the needs of the general public. Or in the case of Tianxiang's Hua Ji, this kind of transformation represents a rigid stamp of approval. The idea of stamping means that it is a standard or norm that keeps its promises. But what if I choose to stick to my own personal standards and norms? Since the chart is my own creation and everything is based on my own unique conditions and personal standards, doesn't that mean that sometimes, perhaps unintentionally, I might also violate certain agreements or situations with others? Because I judge everything by my own standards. Take the 4 stars, for example, or the Hua Ji star. That's why when Hua Ji is in its natural position, there can be so-called contract issues or problems with agreements between people or interpersonal relationship issues. It's because I always act according to my own standards. Or take Wenchang Hua Ji. Wenchang represents rationality and order. But if my rationality and orderliness go too far, if I become too demanding, I might actually become overly nitpicky. All sorts of conditions I set could make others feel uncomfortable. Wenjue star is an emotional and romantic star. If I say that being emotional and romantic goes too far, then it comes across as overly moody. These traits, when placed in different houses, will affect those houses in a way that makes them seem lacking. This sense of lack is really just you feeling like your needs aren't being met. When you can't get that satisfaction, you'll pursue it even more. So when Wenku star transforms into Ji in the spouse house, this person will pursue relationships because their emotional side is overwhelming, which makes them always feel unfulfilled in love. They end up seeking more relationships. But is seeking more relationships necessarily a bad thing? Not necessarily. You could call it romantic, you could call it emotional, but it often also makes them the best family member or the one who surprises you the most. Okay, in short, when it comes to the Ji transformation, first, we don't need to know which specific nature it originates from. Don't get too technical about it. It's a sense of emptiness created by excessive pursuit in the heart. Second, it's not necessarily a bad thing unless it's working together with the other 4 negative stars. Because if I already have a sense of emptiness and then I become overly impulsive like Mars, or overly stubborn like Qingyang, or I am overly calculating like Lingxing, or I just don't know how to handle things like Tuoluo, then of course there might be some destruction. Otherwise, if it's just a single Hua Ji star on its own, it simply means that in this position, you will have many of your own pursuits. That's all. It's not necessarily a bad thing. For example, if you pursue money, that's not necessarily bad. It motivates you to work hard to earn it. If you pursue your career, that's not necessarily bad either. It makes it easier for you to achieve success at work. In fact, having Hua Ji in your life palace is the best thing because you'll always be striving for your own life goals. People like this are often more likely to realize the value of their own lives. So, in the future, when you see Hua Ji in any palace, don't be afraid anymore, unless it happens to encounter other inauspicious stars. And when interpreting Hua Ji, don't just look at it from a negative perspective. Instead, try to think about it differently. Only when you feel a sense of lack will you be motivated. And in life, there are many times when we need motivation. All right, thank you everyone.